DJ and PK, question of the morning. BYU earns a 9th straight win, taking down Iowa State again. Will the streak continue against Houston? Michael believes it will. BYU by 4 points. They beat Houston. They got to be a top 4 seed, right? Right now, I can see them being a 5 seed. There's some teams in front of them, as good as BYU has been. I don't know that those teams have done anything to move themselves out. So it's easier to climb when you're lower. And we were talking about BYU as a 10 and a 9. We were talking about them as a 7 and an 8. I don't even think I want to talk about them as a 6 anymore. And I know some of you think that's going to happen. Well, they might move them down the line because they got to play on Sunday. Well, Ken Pomeroy told us that is less of a concern than ever. They changed the rules. Used to be if you were in the same conference, you couldn't meet until the Elite 8. That's just impossible now because the SEC is going to have more than 8 teams in. So they're going to have teams meeting in the round of 16. And also,
well, speaking of the SEC, with Texas doing what they're doing, they're trending towards maybe 14.
I know, right? And so
there's no way.
There's no way. It's impossible. As soon as you get to 9, it's impossible. And you're right. 12, 13, 14, where's this going? Texas beating A&M in double overtime last night gave Texas's hopes a boost. And it looks like Oklahoma might have played their way in as well. I think in the past when they've been dropped, the biggest factor has been the league. Now, we'll see if they go into this tournament and they end up a 6 or 7 seed, we'll just say, okay, it's BYU, it's Sunday, it's you're playing on the wrong side of the country and people aren't watching. I don't know what the excuse is. I think it's gonna be fine because I think they're in the Big 12 now. And I think that matters. And the selection committee does what you can humanly do to eliminate the power of a brand, whether that's a conference or a school's name. But unless it's just League 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's School ABC, and you see that on social media and in web stories, Team A, and they give them their resume, and then Team B, and it turns out Team A has the better resume, and Team A is Podunk State University, and Team B is Enormous State University, and oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Yeah, because the power of the brands. And it impacts us all. The TV viewership, it's massive, and that's why we got conference realignment. People will sit down and watch USC like it's a big deal, even if USC's 6-6. It's just a big deal. Now, the selection committee, they'll all tell you, not worried about who the team is. There's so many rules, and I get it, you try. But at some point, when you're really splitting hairs, which is what you're doing when you're seeding a 4 or a 5 seed and 5 versus 6, you're really splitting hairs. So a little subconscious, the power of the brand, it's hard to deny. And now BYU's a Big 12 team. When Utah was in the WAC in the 90s, they got some seeds that looked a little wonky. What are you doing there? You got to be a little higher. You're a 3 seed. You ought to be a 2. You're a 2 seed playing Kentucky, the number one seed. So you're 8th. You're the 8th best. You are not the 8th best team. You're better than that. Why did the Utes go to a Final Four after Keith Van Horn? And not with Keith Van Horn. Didn't have to do with Keith Van Horn. It had to do with what round they played Kentucky. The year they met him in the final, they're on the other side of the bracket. So they got there. They got wonky seeds. BYU's gotten some. And there have absolutely been years I thought, BYU's going to be in the 8-9 game. And they've ended up a 10 or 11 seed. But I don't think that's going to happen. And they can make sure it doesn't happen if they beat Houston today. I don't think they're going to do it. Now, I know Houston's shorthanded. Iowa State was definitely shorthanded. Houston is that good. And BYU's good, but they are still not a perfect team. They are a flawed team. But I think that it just doesn't matter. You get this late into the deal, and there are so many teams to seed that unless something really crazy and powerful happens, and winning an automatic bid is obviously the craziest, most powerful thing that can happen, they'll adjust the tournament with that. But there are so many decisions to be made. All the people who've gone through the mock draft, they tell you there's so many decisions on so many teams, and so many teams have to be ranked that after they're ranked, they don't want to go back and redo it. There's not enough hours in the day. So go out and play respectably against Houston, and I'll bet BYU walks away with a 5 seed. Houston's that good. Houston's going to be a 1 seed. I know the SEC is going to get treated well, but I don't think they're going to get treated that well. I don't think they're going to have 3 1 seeds. And for BYU, you got to defend better. It is awesome that you were able to outscore Iowa State. It is awesome that you were able to wear Iowa State down. If you didn't hear the last segment in the 6 o'clock hour, go listen to it wherever you get your podcast. Kevin Young's postgame is there, and he talks about how in the middle of the second half, hey guys, you got to keep pushing. BYU did a good job, even when they were stinking it up and giving up a run and allowing Iowa State to hit a bunch of threes. It couldn't last. They didn't have a bunch of hot scorers out there. They had one in Curtis Jones, and he had 22 at halftime, or 23. And he wasn't going to finish with 45 points. He wasn't going to do that again. He finished with 31. It was okay, and 8 or 9 points in the second half. Could have had 16 or 18 in the game. Awesome. That was enough. Houston's just a whole nother gear and a whole nother level. There is a reason they won this league by three games. We got the question up on our Facebook page. Cougars and Cougars again, who you got? 45% at BYU, 33% at Houston. People, I think you're underestimating Houston here. No worries, go Aggies, 13% of the vote. 8% for Alex is here Monday. Press conference Monday, a hole in the Mavericks schedule. Alex will be introduced Monday night. I think it's 6 o'clock.
Why are we ignoring our UVU Wolverines?
Because there's 4 spots.
They have to win. And they have to win.
They have to win.
Yeah.
And I find them to be and I already have the question for Monday. I will tell you off the air what the question is for Monday if they win. And they got to win twice. How many people can name 2 players on the UVU team? How many times has UVU drawn 5,000 people this year?
More than you'd think, actually.
You think?
Yeah. I actually was talking to somebody. They've had some pretty good crowds this year.
Interesting.
Now, as a kid,
go talk to somebody about web traffic here.
I'm aware of that part.
Nobody will click.
As a kid,
nobody will read a story about a big win.
As a kid who grew up a block away from that university, to watch even a crowd there of any size, pretty remarkable.
So this reminds me of things that I've seen happen twice in my career, and both times it was awesome. UVU is. Wait a minute, I have to do math on the air. About 40 hours away from an incredible scene, which will lead to another incredible scene Sunday afternoon if they win. I was in Santa Barbara when UC Santa Barbara qualified for the NCAA tournament for the first time. Bedlam, joy, weeping, tears of joy, strangers hugging each other, dogs and cats living together. It was unbelievable. Move here, 14, 15 years later, SUU goes to the tournament for the first time. And SUU plays a great game and loses right at the end. I think it was Boston College beat them. But going that, and the party they had, the watch party, the place was packed, everybody showed up. I don't know people in Cedar City the way I knew people in Santa Barbara, but you could just see the shot from the arena, and I was having flashbacks. And UVU will get that. And they got 40,000 students, so if they do get that, I hope they pack the place on Sunday. But they got 2 more games to win. And there's only 4 slots here. If there was 5 built into Twitter, you would have gotten your wish, Yawk. But sometimes you just can't be all things to all people, no matter how hard you try. All right, DJ and PK, it is break time. David Locke's going to be here at the top of the hour. Pablo Mastroeni at 8:30. RSL head coach and Greg Wrubell, play-by-play voice of the Cougars, coming up at 9 o'clock. Hit us up on Twitter or on Facebook, DJ and PK, with your predictions for the game today. If Houston pulls this off, and I do not expect they will, but if BYU pulls this off and beats Houston, I will be impressed, stunned, and amazed. They're going to have to play a very different game than they played yesterday. But that is a sign of a great team. Win different games, different ways. Be competitive in the final 5 minutes. And if you have to win, we've just had Will Hardy talking about rebounding. If you can out-rebound Houston, you are doing something because those guys are athletic and they play hard. And when you have those 2 things, you usually destroy people. You usually rebound really well. Maybe they beat them with defense. Because it's hard to believe that they're going to go out there and go 18 to 36 from 3 again. If they do, more power to them. That'd be impressive. They're a really good offensive team. But that would be elite. I wouldn't expect it. Cast your vote at Twitter, David DJ James. More in a moment, right here on The Zone.